Maria Sharapova, a five-time Grand Slam champion and former world number one. Maria Sharapova built her game on fearless play. She was a baseliner who struck the ball with pace, depth, and precision. Her ground strokes came fast and flat, often catching opponents off guard. At her best, she could hit winners from nearly any position on the court. Her backhand was her greatest weapon. Whether cross-court or down the line, it was a consistent shot that could dictate rallies and finish points. Many considered it one of the best backhands in the game, even at the time of her retirement. But with that power came risk. Sharapova's high-octane style meant she often lived and died by her own racket. Her matches were filled with both blistering winners and frustrating unforced errors. And when the errors piled up, her confidence sometimes wavered. Her mental game, though fierce in many moments, was occasionally tested by long, grinding matches or tight scorelines. She could get visibly frustrated and struggle to reset after a string of mistakes. Physically, Sharapova's height was both an asset and a limitation. Standing at 6'2", she had great reach and leverage on her shots, but her movement was never her strongest attribute. Agile opponents who could stretch the court often found success by pulling her wide, particularly to her forehand side. Players like Li Na exposed this vulnerability, moving her around and forcing her into awkward positions. Sharapova had the heart of a fighter and the aura of a champion, but her aggressive game left little margin for error, and when paired with movement issues and mental lapses, those weaknesses occasionally cost her in big moments. Still, with 5 major titles and a long reign at the top of the game, Sharapova left behind a legacy of intensity. Juan Martín del Potro. Juan Martín del Potro was built to break and challenge the big three. With his towering 6'6" frame, massive forehand, and powerful serve, he had the game to go toe-to-toe with Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic at their peak, and he did. At the 2009 US Open, Del Potro bulldozed through Rafael Nadal in straight sets, then came back from a set, down twice, to defeat Roger Federer in 5. He did this at just the early stage of his pro career. A new star had arrived. But Del Potro's greatest weakness was never technical. It was physical. His body simply couldn't keep up with his talent. Shortly after his breakthrough, he was sidelined by a devastating series of wrist injuries. Multiple surgeries followed. Each one forced him to relearn parts of his game, especially his backhand, which became a vulnerable target. Instead of driving through the ball, he often had to rely on slices, blocks, or safe returns. Opponents would pin him to that wing, knowing the damage mostly came from the forehand side. Outside of his wrist problems, he also battled knee and back issues. Del Potro dealt with repeated injuries that led to more surgeries and long breaks from the sport. He would return, play well, show glimpses of his brilliance, then get injured again. He spent more time in rehab than in tournaments. His ranking would rise, then fall. Hopes would build, then fade. Del Potro had the heart of a champion and the game to match. But the one thing he couldn't overcome was his body's refusal to stay healthy. His career became a story of what could have been, not because he lacked skill or mentality, but because injury after injury robbed him of consistency, momentum, and time. He finished with just 1 Grand Slam title. But for anyone who saw him at his best, especially in New York, that number doesn't tell the full story. Aryna Sabalenka, a multiple Grand Slam champion. Aryna Sabalenka is known for her explosive power and persistent aggression. She is a true baseliner, looking to dominate rallies with heavy ground strokes and a thunderous serve. At full flight, her game can feel overwhelming. Her serve can clock in at over 200 kilometers per hour, and in 2023, she ranked 3rd in total aces on tour. When she's on, she's nearly unplayable. But when the rhythm is off, the cracks start to show. One of Sabalenka's biggest challenges has been her serve. While it's a weapon when firing, it has also been a liability. In 2020, she led the WTA in double faults with 166, but things got worse. At the 2021 WTA Finals and into the 2022 season, she suffered from the yips, averaging more than 14 double faults per match across an 11-match stretch. Her service motion became unpredictable, and what was once her strength started to unravel entire matches. Beyond the serve, her high-risk playing style means she produces a lot of winners, but also a high number of unforced errors. This can put her in a mental spiral. Sabalenka has spoken candidly about her struggles with emotional control, admitting that her own reactions can be her biggest opponent. In high-pressure moments, frustration can creep in, and her ability to stay composed gets tested. She's taken steps to manage this. Sabalenka has worked closely with a sports psychologist, learning to channel her emotions and stay mentally steady through tight matches. Still, the battle with consistency, both emotional and tactical, is ongoing. Her defensive game is another area where opponents can find opportunities. When forced off the baseline, she can look uncomfortable. Players who can absorb her power and extend rallies often draw errors or expose gaps in her movement and shot selection under pressure. Sabalenka is a force of nature, powerful, passionate, and bold. Her ceiling is sky high, but her game walks a tightrope between brilliance and chaos. And how well she balances that line will continue to define her journey at the top of the sport. Alexander Zverev. Alexander Zverev has long been seen as one of the most talented players of his generation. With 3 Grand Slam final appearances and multiple Masters 1000 titles, he's proven he can compete at the highest level. But for all his success, the one thing that continues to elude him is a Grand Slam title. He's come close, but something always seems to hold him back in the biggest moments. Zverev often positions himself far behind the baseline, using his reach and timing to control rallies and wear down opponents with ground strokes. His backhand, in particular, is world-class. Compact, clean, and consistent. It's one of the most reliable backhands in the modern game. He can absorb pace, redirect it, and hit through it with ease. In long rallies, it's his most trusted weapon. But for all his baseline strength, Zverev's game has a few notable weaknesses. The most glaring is his second serve. While his first serve can be a major weapon, his second serve has long been a source of trouble. It's powerful, but often unreliable. He has a tendency to overhit or mistime it, leading to a high number of double faults, especially under pressure. His second serve win percentage has consistently lagged behind the top players, and it's cost him key points in tight matches. Zverev's net game is another area that has drawn criticism. Former player Fabrice Santoro noted that Zverev struggles when drawn forward, particularly against opponents who are comfortable at the net. His volleys can look rushed or hesitant, and his transitions to the front of the court are often awkward, which makes him less dangerous in finishing points quickly. Perhaps most debated is his mental game. Zverev has sometimes faltered in crucial moments, in tiebreaks, in deciding sets, or when serving for matches. There's been a lingering perception that he lacks the composure and killer instinct to close out the biggest wins. Whether it's nerves or lapses in focus, those moments have kept him just short of the finish line. Zverev has all the physical tools, the serve, the backhand, the fitness, the movement. But until he solves the problems with his second serve, sharpens his net play, and finds that extra gear mentally in the clutch, the wait for his first Grand Slam title will continue. Ben Shelton. Ben Shelton is one of the most exciting young players on the ATP Tour. With his flair and booming lefty serve, he's quickly made a name for himself as a rising star. Shelton plays with swagger, confidence, and a fearless approach that has turned heads at the biggest tournaments. His biggest weapon is clear: the serve. Shelton can consistently hit first serves averaging around 126 miles per hour, and he's proven capable of going even bigger. At the 2023 US Open, he hit 2 aces at 149 miles per hour in the same game, one of the fastest ever recorded in the tournament's history. On top of that, he generates massive kick on both first and second serves, making them difficult to read and return. But as big as his serve is, the rest of his game is still developing. The most obvious weakness in Shelton's arsenal is his backhand. Compared to his explosive forehand, the backhand is less reliable, lacking both the consistency and depth needed to control rallies from that wing. Opponents often target it, especially on slower courts where the ball sits up and exposes the lack of bite. His ground game, while powerful, can also be one-dimensional. Shelton tends to lean into aggressive shot-making, which can lead to a high number of unforced errors. He thrives when he's dictating play, but struggles more when he's forced to defend or mix things up. His return game, especially against top servers, is another area in need of refinement. He sometimes finds it difficult to neutralize big serves and start points effectively from the baseline. Some analysts have pointed out that Shelton's overall style can be predictable. He leans heavily on pace and aggression and doesn't yet incorporate much variety in his patterns of play. Adding more slices, change of pace, and even the occasional serve and volley could help round out his game and keep opponents off balance. Ben Shelton has all the tools to become a major force in men's tennis. His athleticism, power, and competitive spirit are already elite. If he can improve his backhand, sharpen his return game, and add more versatility to his shot selection, he could be one of the next big names to watch in the coming years. Iga Świątek. Iga Świątek has already carved out a place among the game's elite. With 4 French Open titles and 2 more slams, 1 at the US Open and 1 at Wimbledon, she's become the dominant force on clay and a serious threat on any surface. Her rise has been defined by a blend of aggression, intelligence, and remarkable athleticism. Świątek plays with power, but also with purpose. Her point construction is thoughtful, often building patiently until the perfect opening appears. She mixes in variety, spins, angles, and drop shots, keeping opponents guessing and rarely giving the same look twice. Despite her offensive mindset, she plays with margin and rarely overcommits. What sets her apart physically is her movement. Her ability to slide into her shots on clay has drawn comparisons to Kim Clijsters and Novak Djokovic. She's quick around the court with a sprinter's acceleration when moving forward, and she generates heavy topspin reminiscent of her idol, Rafael Nadal. But even with all that talent, Świątek's game has areas that opponents look to exploit. Her serve, particularly the second serve, can be vulnerable. She often uses a kick serve, which is effective on clay, but less so on faster surfaces like grass, where the lower bounce gives opponents a clearer strike. Her second serve can sit up just enough for aggressive returners to attack. Some analysts believe she would benefit from developing a more powerful and consistent first serve to relieve pressure. Her forehand, while a weapon in most matches, can also break down under pressure. Against players who hit flat and hard through the court, she can be rushed into errors. These kinds of matchups have proven tricky, especially on faster courts, where she has less time to set up her heavy topspin shots. Another area still under development is her return game against big servers. While Świątek is usually solid in this department, her return patterns can become predictable against opponents who serve with variety and pace. Despite these vulnerabilities, Świątek's ability to adapt and improve has been one of her defining traits. She continues to evolve, adjusting her tactics and strengthening her weaknesses with each season. At just the early stages of her career, she already owns 6 Grand Slam titles. And if she continues to grow, there's no telling how far she'll go. Coco Gauff. Coco Gauff is one of the brightest young stars in tennis, a Grand Slam champion with the kind of presence and maturity far beyond her age. Her athleticism is a key part of her defensive game. She moves exceptionally well, covers the court with ease, and often forces opponents to hit 2 or 3 extra shots just to win a point. She excels in long rallies, where her patience and court sense come into play. Her backhand, in particular, is a rock-solid shot that she trusts in both attack and defense. But even with her all-around talent, there's one shot that has consistently held her back: the forehand. Gauff's forehand has been a frequent target for opponents. It can be inconsistent in both technique and execution. Her extreme grip and swing path can sometimes make it difficult to control the ball, especially when hitting with power or under pressure. Errors tend to creep in during high-stakes moments, and the shot doesn't carry the same reliability as her backhand. This vulnerability has been exposed in key matches. In the 2022 French Open final against Iga Świątek, Gauff's forehand broke down early. In the opening game, she missed 2 routine forehands, one into the net, the other long on breakpoint. That set the tone for the match and highlighted how fragile the shot can become under pressure. To her credit, Gauff has worked hard to improve the forehand, and signs of progress are there, but it remains a shot she doesn't fully trust yet, and smart opponents continue to test it. Still, Gauff has already achieved more than most players do in a lifetime. Her composure, resilience, and drive to evolve make her one of the most exciting players to watch. And if she can continue refining her forehand, the rest of her game is already good enough to take her even higher. Gaël Monfils, a true showman on the court, Gaël Monfils has made a career out of jaw-dropping athleticism, unbelievable shot-making, and a style of play that always gets the crowd on their feet. Whether it's a sliding get from way behind the baseline or a leaping forehand winner, Monfils brings an energy to the game that few can match. At his best, he's a nightmare to play. His court coverage is elite, his reflexes are lightning fast, and his ability to defend and counterpunch is world-class. On the right day, he can hang with and beat anyone. But for all the highlights, Monfils' career has also been marked by inconsistency. While he has the talent to win big, his focus and tactical discipline have often held him back. Monfils has a tendency to take unnecessary risks, going for the spectacular when a simpler shot would do. That crowd-pleasing instinct, while entertaining, can sometimes cost him points, games, and momentum. Mental lapses have also been part of his story. Against strong opponents, Monfils can struggle to maintain intensity throughout an entire match. His level can swing drastically, brilliant in one set, flat in the next. This inconsistency in focus has prevented him from stringing together deep runs at the very top of the game. Another challenge has been strategy. Monfils has all the physical tools, but he doesn't always stick to the most effective game plan. Instead of staying locked into a winning pattern, he sometimes shifts gears too quickly or plays to the crowd rather than the scoreboard. Still, Monfils has carved out a unique and beloved place in tennis. He's a fan favorite, not just for his highlight reels, but for his joy and charisma while playing the game. Taylor Fritz. Standing at 6'5", Taylor Fritz brings serious firepower to the court. His serve is one of his biggest weapons, routinely clocking in at over 140 miles per hour and setting him up to control points early. He plays with powerful and clean ground strokes. When he's dialed in, Fritz can hit through even the best defenders on tour and rack up winners from both wings. But despite his power and shot-making ability, movement has always been a concern. Fritz is not the fastest or most agile player, and his footwork can sometimes let him down. Against opponents who like to pull him wide or hit with heavy angles, he can struggle to keep up or recover quickly between shots. This lack of explosive speed and lateral movement limits his defensive capabilities and can make it tough for him to win long rallies. While he's made improvements in his fitness and court coverage over the years, it remains an area that separates him from the absolute elite. His game thrives on offense, but when forced into extended defense, the cracks can start to show. Still, Fritz is a dangerous opponent for anyone. With his big serve, powerful ground strokes, and willingness to take the ball early, he can take the racket out of his opponent's hands, especially on faster courts. If he continues to refine his movement and add more variety to his game, he has the tools to go even deeper at the biggest events. Tommy Paul. Tommy Paul is one of the most well-rounded and athletic players on tour. That is both a strength and a weakness. He moves extremely well, has solid technique on both wings, and can hang with just about anyone from the baseline. Paul is quick, agile, and makes use of his speed to chase down balls and extend rallies. His footwork and fitness allow him to play long points without breaking down, and he is known for being a tough competitor who is hard to hit through. But the flip side is that he does not have a definitive weapon. Unlike some of his peers, Paul does not possess a huge serve, a massive forehand, or an elite shot that consistently puts opponents on the back foot. His game is more about balance and consistency than firepower. That makes him extremely solid, but at the top level, where small margins decide matches, the lack of a go-to weapon can be a disadvantage. In tight moments, or against top-tier players, Paul can struggle to impose himself or finish points quickly. His serve, while reliable, is not particularly threatening, And while his ground strokes are clean and consistent, they do not always carry the same weight as the big hitters on tour. That said, Paul's versatility and court sense have allowed him to compete at a high level. He is especially dangerous when he mixes in variety, using drop shots, angles, and net play to disrupt rhythm. But to take the next step, many believe he needs to develop a more consistent offensive edge, or find a weapon he can truly lean on. So, what do you think? Which weaknesses stood out to you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Until next time.